All right. You know what, Marlena, it does not look like it's moving at all as far as participants. They can log on as they arrive or join in as they arrive. So if you want to go ahead and get started.
All right. So Devin is here with me today. I know a lot of you know Devin and probably recognize her name from the earlier versions of the program. And I think she may have been on the last call we did, but she's in a new position. We have Housing Stabilization Administrator and over the Dehap program, moving back over the Dehap program, which we're very excited about. So you may be hearing from her some and seeing her around more than me over time. So on that note, one of the things on my list to share was some kind of staffing issues and some updates on our processing capacity and where we are on that, because I know that's a very hot topic. We know we have some older applications from the summer we're still processing and have a huge number that have come in since the new portal reopened. And you may be hearing from folks whose names you haven't heard from before. We do have about 30 new processors who are working applications and another 15 that are starting next week. So there's a lot of new capacity coming on. We are doing intensive training with everyone, but please do give us a little grace. If you get a request or have an issue that doesn't sound quite right from your experience with the program, because I know a lot of you have been working with it very closely, please feel free to reach out to us so we can make sure to address it. But there are a lot of new folks on board, and we are really focused on kind of getting through what we have, getting caught up on that backlog, and being able to turn around more quickly. We are also particularly making sure we're working court cases. I think I've shared in the past, we don't always know about those, but have more information sharing to be looking at the cases that are coming up in the next several weeks, make sure that everyone has a recent update. Like we do not want cases to be going into a court hearing, not having any sort of answer or having heard from Dehap. So frequently when we look those up, there has been some past communication, but we're going back and making sure that there's a recent communication on if something's needed, what it is, so everyone kind of has that information. A couple of other updates. We will be making some program guidelines updates shortly in the next couple of weeks. Mostly kind of little straggly things that have come up over time, like intricacies around utilities and things like that. Also looking to probably shorten the turnaround time for applications to move to be withdrawn or denied. That's something we have struggled with. We have a lot of applicants. We were not doing that in the spring. So if we reviewed an application, sent a follow-up, and didn't hear back, sent another follow-up and didn't hear back, we kind of let them sit. We weren't clearing them out. And we are going to be doing that more to kind of get them off our queues if we're not getting follow-up. But to do that, we need to have a really clear kind of policy and statement on what outreach steps we go through and what that timeline is. So that's another thing we'll probably be adding. I think a couple of issues and topics I wanted to mention, some things that are still outstanding. I think we resolved most payment stuff, ACH issues, got everybody set up on that. I know we've done a lot of cleanup on making sure folks are connected to applications. There's still some of that, but I know especially for some of the larger companies, we had a lot of cleanup to do there. I think we're pretty much through. If you do have issues like that, please reach out to us. The turnaround time, as if any of you have encountered that on getting those applications changed, like if it's linked to the wrong email address, especially if it's gone through to be registered and submitted on another person's account, is not immediate. It is not overnight. We cannot do that ourselves here at the office. We have to kind of submit that as a ticket to Yardi. So the more we can try to make sure they're kind of submitted correctly from the start, or flag issues before they sit too long. Sometimes if they've just been submitted, if there's a typo in the email or things like that, we can fix that. But if it kind of makes that connection, if it gets linked, we can't fix that ourselves. ERD has said they have some things in the works that will make that easier to do. Some of it maybe to allow us to make some of those changes, but that's not kind of in our release yet. So continuing to communicate to tenants like the exact info they should be putting in there to make sure that they can link to your account is important. Another one is linking admins and users. I know particularly the larger companies have kind of set things up differently. Some are kind of centralizing with one person at the corporate office or regional office, sometimes adding additional users or sometimes not, just keeping it totally centralized. That is something we can do. I want to make sure everybody kind of understands how that works. If you are, if you have several people or a whole bunch of people working at your company, it can be set up so one user is the admin. And so they set up the properties, they enter the bank account info, they get them verified, and then can add users that then have access to those specific properties. So if those other people are already users, we need to do that through a help desk ticket, but we can, and that will make it so you can kind of move stuff around. If one comes in and is connected to one of those people, we then don't have to go back to ERD to kind of get them reconnected and linked to applications. So, but it seems like I'm hearing less of that. So it seems like mostly folks have kind of figured out what's going to work for them and how they're gonna handle that. Some payment stuff that has come up. So you should be getting the email stubs, and those go out when the status flips to paid. So they go through several statuses until they get to paid. So there's approved, then there's funding requested, funding approved, sent to bank, and paid. So the email stub that you get goes out when it flips from sent to bank to paid. Those just go out by email. They're not things that you can go back and find in the portal. This is something I've raised as an issue that we would really like for those to be saved somewhere so we can go back and get them. I know especially for larger companies, the person whose email that goes to might not be the person who really needs to see it. So being able to come back and get those would be nice. And so just want to share that is on our radar is something we would like to be more accessible on an ongoing basis. Otherwise, you would see on the case info tab, you'll see amount requested and amount approved, but I understand, needing to know when something's paid is the most important piece. I will say on our side, and if you need to call the call center, they can see kind of tracing information and cleared dates, the date it was sent to bank, the date it cleared, and a little bit more detail if you need it. A couple of other kind of more day-to-day processing type issues. I mentioned we have a lot of new auditors and processors on board. I know we have been doing a lot of communication with the auditors, and I know some of you have been frustrated not being able to get the answers that you would like and need from the auditors. We're really trying to push more towards the call center. The auditors are getting a ton of that kind of communication, and we really want them to be able to focus on auditing to kind of get through that backlog. And that is ultimately how we will get you the status updates that you want and need is for them to work through the cases they have. As we have a lot more processors on board, their caseloads are a lot smaller, which I think was one issue, is that early on we had a lot of auditors that had really large numbers, so everyone could see their email, so everyone was emailing them to ask for updates on their cases. So that is not the case anymore. It's much more spread out, but still, I just want to flag, if you just are asking auditors for general status updates, it's going to be harder for them to get back to you. I know there are some definitely where you have been waiting a long time, you need answers. Feel free to add me to those if it's becoming an urgent issue, if you're not getting a response at all. But just want to flag, especially for the newer auditors, ones that have, not DSAJ email addresses, you probably recognize, and many of you probably know the names of most of our internal auditors now. We really want to make sure they can kind of focus on processing those cases. And the call center too can escalate to management if needed. So, it's excellent in making sure someone can answer the call, that they can't always like dig way down in the weeds on stuff, but they can escalate to us if they need to. And especially if there's like a, court date coming up, something urgent, utility shutoffs, things like that, they can escalate to us. I think another thing that I know has been in the news a good bit is reallocation of the overall funding source. So there are two primary federal funding sources for DHAP, the Emergency Rental Assistance Program 1 and Emergency Rental Assistance Program 2. The first one has a deadline through September of 2022. The second one has a deadline of September of 2025. There's been a lot in the news and new Treasury putting out releases about reallocation of some of the ERA1 funding. Delaware's allocation of that was $200 million, so it was really large. It was a small state minimum that wasn't linked to, population or need, or, it was a small state minimum. So it is likely Delaware may see some reallocation from that, but I really want to emphasize to everyone that that is not going to impact the DHAP program. Like, that is not remotely going to impact like availability of funding or the ability of the program to continue to operate. We have the ERA1 that we're using now, and then beyond that, we have the ERA2, which is not related to the reallocation that's been in the news from Treasury. So there is plenty of resources for DHAP. Please don't worry about that. All right, I think those were the big updates I had and kind of things to flag. I don't know, Devin, did you have any others I'm not thinking of?
Nope, I think you covered all of the most important bases and recent developments with the program.
Okay. All right. So one other thing I want to mention, because I'm sure this will come up in Q&A, and I see a chat question to me on the side about it, is we had an email go out over the weekend that was a general status update email to everyone, and that was sent out through Yardi. Yardi has a lot of different programs that they are using rent relief for and do case management services on. And so there was a sentence in that email about being able to make payments to tenants. And I've gotten several questions about that. That is not correct for DHAP right now. So I know that creates concern. And larger landlords like you that are participating in the program and registered, that's not going to be an issue or a concern. But I will say, for right now, that is not a change we have made to our program guidelines. It is one we are looking at in those updates that I mentioned. It is strongly encouraged by Treasury, and so related to that reallocation process, like, we have to do a program report improvement plan to Treasury, saying how we are following all of their best practices, and that is one of them. They strongly encourage that. And actually, on the second batch of funding, the ERA2 funding, grantees are required to do that and allow payments to tenants. That will definitely have specific kind of policies and steps around it. It won't just be like, oh, I prefer to get paid directly instead of you paying my landlord. And we'll say, okay, like that will not be the case. It will be more like, refusing to participate. And I think this has come up more frequently with folks who are renting from someone who, just owns that home and that's the only property they have. And they just don't want to, they don't want to register on the site, and they don't want to participate. So those are the cases where that might be popping up. But again, that's not the change we have made. And when we do, it'll have clear policies around that. All right. I see, all right, I'm getting a mix of kind of ones directly to me and ones under everyone. But so I see, Leslie, your comment about not being able to get anyone on the phone. Is that folks who are calling the call center not able to get folks on the phone? Really? Okay. Like when? Like this week or?
Marlena, you could, Leslie, if you want to chat, you can.
Hi, yeah, so I just have residents telling me quite often they can't get people on the phone. I don't know when the last time these residents called is, and I also don't know if it's 100% true. So I was just asking, like, because you've hired new auditors, is the response to the phones better now?
So the call center is separate from the auditors. So the call center is like a big, like legit call center. They
Okay.
calls for other programs that Yardi does those kind of services for too. I think we have 9 staff at the call center, and we get weekly reports of like the call wait times, and they've been generally like under 3 minutes
Oh, good.
for quite a while. I mean, if you're hearing specific stuff, please let me know and I can follow up. I know someone mentioned yesterday they had a really long wait time, and I followed up with the call center right away, like, is this even possible? Because that doesn't align with the reports we're seeing. So that's
is the
not
number
what,
on the website the call center phone number?
yeah, the 866 number is the call center. So if folks are trying to call auditors, that might be more difficult. I mean,
Okay.
the auditors' numbers are not posted in the portal, so they may be getting them like from the from their email signatures or things like that. We are making some changes there, asking auditors to like put on auto replies and give them some different email signatures, because same thing, they can't always respond to a kind of flood of phone calls all day as well. How soon after payment should the status be flipped to paid? Receive payment is soliciting approved for payment status. That is an issue I am trying to figure out this week. There were maybe like 50 cases or so where the status they were paid, but the status didn't flip to paid, which means you didn't get the ACH stub in the email.
Okay.
And I'm following up with Yardi to figure out what's going on with that one. Okay, I see a question about an ACH stub for payment in July. You haven't been able to get an answer. That would be under our previous system, so we have to kind of dig that one up ourselves. But if you want to send that ask to me and Devin, we'll make sure to get an answer for you on that, Danielle. So Jeff, your question on software updates, the secondary statuses and table sorting are both kind of requests I've put in and are in the works. I'm following up on them. I don't have them active yet, but we have asked for those. The COVID form is e-signature now. The income one is the one we don't have e-signature yet. The missing tenant side documents is I think the bigger one. I'm not sure we'll be able to get there, but that is still on our kind of list of things to work through with Yardi if we can. If you contact for a supervisor, if you're having difficulties, that could be Devin and me. Right. Typical turnaround time for supervisor approval. We did have some that were in that supervisor approval status for a while, and have focused on getting all of those assigned out to make sure that they're not sitting like that anymore. If you still have any that are sitting in there, please feel free to send us an email, but we've been working on making sure all those get assigned out. And we have more, part of the new auditors is also additional supervisors too. If you're having trouble moving an assistance application under the wrong person, can you move it to the correct person? So if you've already tried or already been in touch with us and we haven't been able to do it, we probably need to do a help desk ticket for it if we haven't already. If you want to be in touch with us, we can help put that through. The call center can also do those tickets. I think sometimes the call center won't always, like if you have a lot of issues, like we're trying to handle those to make sure we kind of get them all at once. If you're calling the call center about like connecting to one specific application, they may do a ticket on that one and not kind of get the bigger picture that, oh, okay, we need to move like 20 from this person to this person. So if it's just one, the call center can do tickets on those two. If it's more and it's like a systemic issue, like there's someone who doesn't work at your company anymore and has a bunch of applications attached to them, I would say reach out to us so we can just make sure we kind of get the whole package done all at once.
Marlena, can I stop you just for a quick second, just to talk about that? The one that I'm mentioning for myself, this has kind of been in the works since July. I put a ticket in, I called the help desk. I've actually put a couple tickets in. I don't know how to follow up on these tickets. I don't know where they go from there. I've had a couple of different names pop up through emails. No one's kind of responded back. So I just recently sent you an email actually while we were on the calls to get you involved to see if you could move that along. And then secondly, you just mentioned if someone's no longer within your company who was working the DHAP applications and you need someone to transition over into that role, do we just give that information to you so you can get the new person set up, or is there a different process?
So you can add them as a user, like if you're set up as an admin and you want to add them as a user, so they'll be linked to you. You can do that from your side of the portal. If they already have an account, if they're already set up and we need to like move applications to them or things like that, we can help with that.
Okay, do you know, like, are the applications in limbo during that time? Like, will we not receive updates of like payments for those people during that window?
They're not really in limbo. They're sitting where they are, or whatever they're attached to until they get moved.
Okay, so the first step is to get the admin to move over the applications to the new person.
Yeah, so like, I'm not sure how your accounts are set up. Like, are you an admin for your company, or is there someone who's set up as like the main admin account for your company?
Not quite sure, but I can figure that out.
Okay, so if someone is an admin and you have like a new staff person come on board, I think it's on the add users tab. The admin can like add a new person, they'll get an invite, and then when they click that invite to go kind of register for the site, they'll be linked to to your company and to that admin. If you have applications that were connected to someone who doesn't work at your company anymore, and they weren't
Correct,
linked
that's the
to you in any way.
scenario.
Okay. Yeah, then those we definitely need to do a help desk ticket for. But it sounds like if you just sent me an email, I will check on it and see what the status is. I will say probably a week and a half ago, we had a lot of those that were stacked up, and I threw a great big old fit, and they pushed a lot of them through and got a lot of them moved. So there was a lot of action on them. Maybe I might need to do that again if there's any that are still hanging out there. But if you send it to me, I'll follow up and check on it.
Awesome, thank you.
The automated update emails, yes, that say in progress. So we had turned those off because they were going out every Saturday, and everyone was just getting that said just in progress, and like that wasn't very helpful because it didn't tell everyone, didn't really give folks information. So we did turn those off. The one that came back on this weekend included like more program information about, this is stuff you might need, you might hear from an auditor. So I think we probably will turn those back on and edit the text a little bit. To make sure it's not giving the applicant the sense that like, okay, it's in progress, I just need to wait. But gets that extra information that, if you're hearing from someone, you need to follow up, something might be needed. So thank you for your feedback on those. I will stick my our emails in the chat. Turnaround time from when an application is approved by the landlord for payment to be received. So the turnaround time, I mean, if it's approved, like if the whole application is approved by the auditor and the supervisor, right now we're doing one payment batch a week on Wednesday mornings. So they are batched on Wednesday mornings. There's a lot of back and forth, like we approve the batch, then we transfer money, and then that's them moving through those different steps. So they're usually batched on Wednesday morning and sent to bank usually Friday or Monday. And that usually means that if you're using ACH, you'll probably see it in your account that next Wednesday or Thursday. So if it happens that the application got approved on like a Wednesday afternoon, there might be a little bit more of a lag because it would wait till the next Wednesday's batch. We may add more batches and switch to doing 2 batches a week. Right now we've been doing 1, and that's, we haven't had the volume to do 2, but we may switch to do 2 a week. So that, Leslie, your question about to see in the landlord portal what is still needed from the residents, that connects to Jeff's question about something that has been raised and wanting to see on the landlord side exactly what's needed from the tenant side. They're pretty separate. If we need stuff specifically from the tenant, we're going to reach out to the tenant. If we need stuff that's related to the landlord, we're going to reach out to the landlord. So there's not a way for the landlord to see like, oh, this tenant needs to provide their income documentation, because that's really on the tenant side. So not that level of detail. I see a question about a specific case. I'll certainly check on that one.
Yeah, we haven't. I mean, we got our was it batch 20 way back when under the old system and haven't seen a single payment since, nor have we seen any of our applications move forward except the one that was approved for payment back in July. And we've got scads of applications just sitting there. And my turnaround time is I got a question this morning and I had everything in there within 30 minutes. So I've been, very on top of this. So that's, just curious as to why that would sit like that. And by the way, I appreciate the suspension of the the non-helpful emails.
So I think on the sitting, it really is just the backlog that we have had. And that's, we've added on all of these processors to work through that. And that's why we added a big volume. I don't think we probably won't need to stay at like 45 to 50 processors, but realize that that's what we need to get through what we have, and kind of clear out what we have. The ones that were transitioned from Alita ended up needing a little bit more of a touch than I think we were anticipating when we did the transition, unfortunately. So it was a little more time consuming to kind of get them back all the way through. But we're working on it. That's the backlog. The overwhelming majority of those new processors are focused on backlog cases, so we can get caught up and then get caught up on new ones.
There is a follow-up question to that though, which is, sorry to jump the line. So, let's take the one from July, right? So we, when these tenants get a notification saying approved for payment, they're not going to send us another dime. They're just not, right? So, so now you've got someone who's back from July that may have applied for go forward rent, but now they're in arrears on that. And now there's the go forward. So the question is, that being the case, right? Because we're now going into November. Do they revisit that at the time of, because it says approved for payment, do they revisit that and go, oh, let's gross up because you're now, 4 more months have gone by?
Yes. So especially if they're older or if the ledger that's on there is older, you should be getting an ask for a new one. I'll look up that one. And feel free to, if you're not getting that request, if they're ones that the ledger is old, they owe a lot more months now, you can definitely add that, and we definitely want to get as current as we can and be paying forward ideally if we can as well.
Right. And I don't want to be all negative, right? So the software is a hell of a lot better, right? Having come from the software business, and folks are responding. For me, they answer the phone and putting the emails in. I am getting responses from, maybe I shouldn't tell you this, from the folks processing the application. So, all in all, other than the fact that I haven't got any money, other than that, everything is much better than it was under the old system. So I didn't want to be totally negative.
Oh, thank you. I know.
Other than just saying, you all suck, which is what normal people do, which isn't fair. So
no, it's fine. I think there are definitely still some hiccups and issues with Yardi, stuff we've had to work through. Nothing's perfect, but I think we're finding a lot more. We're getting responses to issues, especially critical issues, and definitely the payment side, which is one of our primary concerns. Really, we want to be able to pay you quickly, accurately, not say we're going to pay you 5 times and not have that happen. So that piece has been important to us. All right. I got an email asking for a signed and dated ledger. Not signed and dated. If you want to forward that to me or let me know which case you were getting that question on, I can follow up on it. I think, on the ledgers, we want to get to, our goal is to get to a place where you don't need to send in a new one, right? Like I think working through the backlog, we want to be at a place where, the ledger you submitted at the time of application is the one we can still use because, not that much time has passed. I think until we get there, if you want to if you can continue to send in new ones, that will help us make sure we're kind of bringing everybody current if they're more behind at the time of processing.
Can I ask a clarifying question about that though, Jeff, if you don't mind? You said, is it possible to remove this as a required form since we have to send an updated one later in the process? Is that referring specifically to the delay in payments because of the backlog? Or are you saying when you come in to recertify for a new application, you'll have to provide a new ledger?
It's the delay in the backlog. So basically when someone applies, we're providing the ledger day one. I don't know what everyone's experience is, but mine's roughly a month and a half, 2 months. The ledger is totally different by the time it's being paid out. And then often, even between the time where I'm giving that ledger the last time and when the actual payment comes, they could have got another month. So I'm just kind of wondering if there's a better way to do that.
Gotcha. Yeah. Like Rosalina said, I think a big part of that is working through the backlog currently. I do know auditors are feeling free to, if it's a ledger from September, then they're automatically adding October for right now. And then forward rent as well. And then for the recertifications, of course, we would need an updated ledger once you come back in and request more rent. But in the meantime, it's just, staffing up and getting through our backlog. And like Marlena said, hopefully we won't have to ask for new ones soon.
Yeah, I will admit I did have one from the last batch, 20, whatever that was, that not the last, but way back when, where they did automatically gross up one of the folks and included the extra 3 months or something like that. So I was just hoping that would occur going forward.
Well, we can do a follow-up on that to all the folks who are working the older applications to make sure they're adding whatever time has passed and future rent. All right, when deposits are made, for example, on a Monday, there's no supporting statement. Oh, it's up to 2 weeks. Okay, so they should be aligning pretty closely. If that's happening to you on specific ones, or especially if you can give me the case number or tenant name where that's happening, I'll follow up on that because again, I want that to be working well. And, I think getting the timing lined up, like it shouldn't be that big of a lag from like when you're seeing it in your account to when you're getting the stub. Because that should be happening within a few days if that goes out when the status switches to paid. So if you have had this issue and there's been a really big delay, please send me a note with the details and I'll check into it.
That would be a suggestion I'd make software wise on the detail that's done with the ACH. To just put the case number in there, because that would solve, like, at least you'd know what which application you're looking at.
Really, this one about we haven't logged in since the end of August or not able to log back in and are missing the password reset link. I'm not sure what you would suggest other than checking junk mail. But if you have a username and login, and I'm guessing this is for the Yardi system, correct? Not the old Alita system?
I don't know.
Okay, so the new portal, I can put the link to the new portal if you haven't logged into that one. So just make sure that it's the correct portal that you're trying to access and try to establish or reestablish your account connection that way.
Okay.
Yeah, you should not have to re-register. That's another thing the call center can help with if they need to do like a manual reset, or if you're not getting the forget password email, they can help with that. The question on the portal not showing how much was paid. Yes, that's right. It does not. It shows how much is approved on that case info tab. And then the stub that you get by email gives the kind of detail and like the detail by month on each tenant. How long does it take auditors to approve once the landlord approves? That's a tough question to answer because kind of it can come in from multiple places and be at multiple stages. So frequently, I think most commonly, the tenant starts the application, which then when they're entering that, they enter your email info, assuming it connects right. In most cases it does, but you get an invite to go then kind of add them as a tenant, put in a ledger, kind of do your side of it. You can also start the application yourself as well, in which case it kind of works the other way. Then the tenant gets an email prod to go in and apply. So it's hard to put a specific time on it, since like different pieces might be kind of moving at the same time. But like if something is needed, if like you get an email asking you for something and you upload that, that should be looked at again within a couple of days. If you have some where that's not happening, please flag. Like I mentioned, we have reduced the caseloads quite a bit. So folks don't have so many, our auditors don't have so many open cases all at the same time, which is kind of hard to manage and stay on top of. So that should also help, where they're kind of working on much more kind of manageable batch at a time. And yeah, so. Tenant moves out and was approved. Can I still anticipate and get payment? He moved in June. I probably would need to look into the case a little bit more and see what the status was and when. If you can send me a side note with the case number and information on that one. The recertification process for a tenant that has been approved in the past. So they need to kind of do that recertification, do a new case. The only new documentation they might need to provide would be income documentation. So if folks use the 30 days of pay stubs or 30 days of actual household income documentation, they'll have to provide that again. If they're using like their 1040 or the income self-cert form, they don't need to do that again. So they don't really need to provide anything new unless it's income documentation. Can they reapply as soon as their prior application was paid out, or is there a required wait? I mean, they can start a new case. I mean, we won't be able, so like if one was paid now and we paid through January, if they do another new case right now, we can't pay that far out into the future. It'll be kind of when we get to the place of being able to pay for those additional months.
Marlene, on that topic, so it was mine. I had a tenant that she's been approved, and she said kind of basically, hey, it took them 2 months to approve it last time. Can I just reapply now? And then hopefully by the time my 3 months are up, that's totally fine, right? She just wouldn't be able to actually request those months. It would just be when we update the ledger that she would get it, I assume.
Yeah, I mean, I think she could go ahead and do the recertification and kind of have it in the queue.
Okay.
So a question on requesting 3 months in advance. So yes, we can pay 3 months in advance. So right now we're doing November, December, January. We'll probably switch to December, January, February within the next couple of days, since we're at the end of October. The month we're kind of in is we consider current month, and then it's 3 months in addition to that. Number of applications, number approved. dollars applied, dollars approved. I do not have that like immediately here that I don't want to be like recorded on the record of giving it to you off the top of my head. But we are working on a like weekly dashboard. And I can tell you that this week our approvals are, I think, close to triple what they were last week. So we are picking up the pace. I mentioned. Still saying payment mailing address or pay to the order of missing for selected property. If you can send me a side note again with maybe your username or the case number, I can look that up and see what the issue is. It sounds like something, one of the property entries on the property info tab isn't fully complete. So that's what I would want to check, is if it actually is complete and it's telling you that it's still not complete, or if it might just be that there might be multiples and maybe the one you think it's linked to is not the one that it's actually linked to. Yeah. Would not send the forgot password link. Haven't been able to log in. I would suggest trying the call center if you haven't done that already, just to get your account info sorted out so they can help you kind of get back in with your existing account. Unless you already did that, unless there already was a ticket and you didn't hear back on that. My suggestion would be to start with the call center to kind of make sure you can get access again. And if you still have issues, send us a note. The total amount folks can receive, they max out at 15 months and it's up to $2,000 a month for rent. And that rent would include kind of anything that's being paid to the landlord. So if there's trash fees and stuff in there, $2,000 paid to the landlord. That does not include, so like if they are also submitting for utilities, like to be paid to Delmarva Power, that's separate. But the max is 15 months and $2,000 a month. Whew. And all right, I'll put our emails in now. I couldn't see the bottom of the chat. Other stuff? You guys are always very rapid fire. It's very hot seat. Get through your questions. But yeah, I think a lot of the ones that have come up, if you're having specific issues, feel free to email Devin and me, and we're happy to figure out what the issue is. I would rather figure out the issue than have it not figured out and then everybody's super mad, after a month of, if you're not hearing back from someone or not able to resolve an issue. So please do reach out to us. And one other plug I would want to put out there is that on the info for landlords page of the program website, we've added weekly Q&A sessions, which we're available to do, like basically this, if you want. I think we framed it as kind of Q&A, but are probably going to change it to more like office hours. So, we're there, we're logging on. Even if you just need a quick question answered, feel free to hop on. And we're happy to go through stuff. We have not had a lot of folks on those, usually just like 2 or 3. But if you have kind of burning questions and we've been playing email tag or voicemail tag or whatever, feel free to hop on those. They do have registration links on them. I think they are Fridays at 10 and Tuesdays at 3.
Marlena, where do you find those?
On the decovidhousinghelp.com site on the info for landlords page.
Okay, thank you.
Ah, come on, otherwise it's just me and Devin talking to each other, sitting there while we catch up on our email. All right, some tenants are not tech savvy and don't become aware of missing documents unless we contact them directly by phone. So one thing I would say on that is some of our new teams that are coming on, and I think we're going to kind of spread this across all of our teams, is kind of upping the communication that we do. So Yardi can send text messages as well. And we're looking to kind of up that to, right away, sending email, text, and call, like all at once, rapid fire, make sure we're getting folks as much as possible. I think email folks frequently don't see, or you get stuck in their spam folder. So that's something we're going to be doing to catch up with them, to try to catch up with them more effectively. Is there a way to know? There's not currently a way, for the landlord to know specifically what documents are missing, kind of unless you, ask the auditor. I think the call center would probably tell you that, I'm pretty sure. Or at least that there are documents missing. Like if you're calling for a status, they will tell you that something is needed from the tenant. So a little bit more info. Could we add a status, tenant docs needed? So the secondary status, when we get that visible, we do have there's a waiting for applicant status. So that would be one of the secondary ones that you would be able to see. That's basically what that means. We need something from the tenant.
Marlena, just a quick question. That secondary status, would that be something that's possible to put into the automated email? I know it's, I guess, difficult to add it into the software, but if we could get like a once a week thing, that might solve at least some of it.
Yeah, I'll have to check. That might be possible. I'll check on that because we're looking at all these automated emails. I want to make sure I know exactly what is going out when and where. So I'll check on that. A resident that has received close to 16,000 would she be able to apply again? So it's about the months. 15 months is the max, and it's 15 months under the current program. So if they got help in the 2020 versions of the program, that doesn't count. That doesn't count toward the 15. It's 15 from the program that's been running since March of 2021. So that can max out at 30 if it's at the monthly max of 2,000. It's really the months, not the total dollar amount that are the cutoff. Anything else? Well, if you think of something, you can come to the one on Friday for our kind of office hours. And we're doing those twice a week. And we, like I said, we want to help answer your questions and want to make sure stuff doesn't fester out there with not getting answers on things. All right, 2 more questions that I see pop up. Does the program have an expected end date? The current funding we have goes through September of 2022, and the second batch of funding after that through September 2025. So the farthest out is September 2025. Not, not in the near future, I'll say, pending any other changes with any of that federal funding. But given I think the resources that we have and the deadline dates on those, not in the near foreseeable future. Max for utilities is 1,500 a month. So it could be multiple utilities. That's super high. We wanted to make sure we could kind of get whatever there was. It's also 15 months on utilities, same thing. Does the total month include back rent? So that 15, the 15 months is whatever mix of arrears, current and future months. So if somebody is behind 6 months, we can pay those 6, we can pay current and plus 3 until they get to 15. So it's the 15 is whatever mix of arrears plus current and future. All right, well, if there's nothing else, thank you very much. Thank you, Candy, very much for putting this together, and thank you all for getting on, and for, you know, all your patience with us and all your help getting these funds out. You know, we want this to work, and we want to be helpful. So, you know, if you are having issues, please do reach out to us. We want to get them sorted out.
Yes, thank you so much, Marlena and Devin. I appreciate it. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you all.
Thanks.
Have a great
Thank
day.
you. If anybody wants a recording of this, just please reach out to me and I'll send you the recording.